Hello and greetings to you, Shalom. My name is Barabbas. I was born at the time of the Roman occupation of our land of Judah, the beautiful land we called it. We lived in a small town not far from Jerusalem. My mother and father were hard workers to keep our family of me and 4 siblings alive and well. It was not an easy time because of the occupation. My father would be away from us for days at a time, looking for work of whatever he could find, even working for the Romans at odd occasions. When I reached 13 years of age, I was sent out with my father to look for work also. This left my mother to look after the other 4 younger children. My mother would do washing and house cleaning for the richer folk of our small town. As I grew older, it seems that times got harder. Caesar was putting taxes up higher each month, and so we had less and less to eat. One day my father passed away. He was worn out from hard work and hunger. Now this left my mother with the family to look after and provide for. My 2 younger brothers were out looking for work by now, as I was 20 years old. Joshua was 18 and Zach was now 15 years old. The 2 younger girls were only 10 and 8. Now the occupation continued to get harder and harder. The Romans would come into our town making demands on taxes and counting how many people there were of age, mainly male, so they could make slaves of us. But most times we were able to hide from these Romans and not be seen. When I reached 30 years of age, we were living in Jerusalem for some 5 years or so. Our mother passed away also, worn down from worry, hard work and little food. She had caught an illness that slowly took her life. Me and my 2 brothers were messing with petty theft just to survive. This became more and more of a lifestyle as time went on. The 2 girls managed to find husbands and were okay. The youngest one, Miriam, married some rich guy and lived on an estate in the high end of Jerusalem. I never got to meet him. I guess I'm too poor and unworthy to meet anyone of the upper class snobs. Well, eventually, as time went on, my 2 brothers and I threw in with a band of rebels who performed raids on the Romans and even on our own town people to survive. We mostly picked on the Roman soldiers at opportune times and situations. Sometimes there would be quite a struggle and some of our men were wounded. I remember one time when Benjamin was so badly wounded, it took months for him to even be able to walk just a few steps. But after a year or so, he was back on his feet enough to take part in our raids again. There were times when the fighting with the Roman soldiers was so fierce it came close to someone being killed. We didn't want to kill anyone, we just wanted to disrupt their plans and put the wind up them a bit. So we began to grow stronger and more bolder as our numbers increased. All these men were driven to this point in their lives by injustices on the part of the Roman occupation. Eventually our raids were getting results which I never expected to see. It was amazing. The Romans began to hunt for us in and around the city and surrounding areas. We had moved out into the hills where we thought it would be safe and be harder for the Romans to discover us. We did feel safe and secure where we were. We could see if any soldiers were approaching from any direction and we were well hidden from view. We would go out under the cover of darkness and sneak into the city to do our rebellious deeds and to steal supplies and what we needed. Some of the city folk would leave food and clothing for us where we could find it without the Romans knowing. But as time passed, the Romans began to wise up to what was going on, but they never could catch us out. We were so smart and careful for them to do that. Well, one night when we were on a raid in the city, I made a mistake of killing a soldier who had discovered me in the alley behind the Roman barracks. I didn't know what to do. It was just an accident, but someone in the barracks heard the scuffle and the soldier yell just as I plunged my sword into his ribs. I had to get away quick, but I was stopped. Both directions in the alley were blocked by Roman soldiers. I was trapped with no way of escape. A Roman centurion took charge of the situation, one Cornelius, who escorted me to the prison cells. What a stench! No toilet, not even a bucket. The water to drink smelt of, well, we won't go there, but you get the picture. I found it hard to even find a place to sleep on that cold, dirty, sloppy floor. Finally, I did drop off to an uneasy sleep. Well, morning dawned, and from my dark, smelly cell, I could hear a ruckus going on outside. People were yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs. What the heck was going on? Well, I couldn't see anything as there was no windows or slots in the wall of the jail cell to see through. But I could hear all the commotion happening out there. I heard the crowd yelling, "Crucify him!" Did that mean me? I knew I was up for crucifixion, but I had had no trial before the governor yet. I was charged with murder, theft and insurrection. Surely they don't mean me. Hey, you got to give me a trial at least before I'm nailed to a cross. Then I heard it. The footsteps of a Roman soldier. He was coming to my cell door. Hey, what's going on? He just said, "Come with me." And he and another soldier escorted me out to the place where Pontius Pilate sat in judgment. Off to one side stood a man all bruised and bloodied in torn clothing. I'd seen this man before out on the hills with a huge crowd of people listening to what he was teaching. I had wanted to stop and listen to him, but I couldn't. We were having to get back to our hideout. I wondered what he was doing here. This man had no reason to be held here. He is not a troublemaker. He is a man of integrity, upright and honest, a healer of the sick and dying. He even raised the dead. I don't get it. He should not be here. I heard Pilate state this man's innocence to the crowd, and you should have heard the chief priests protest. They were practically screaming, and the crowd were yelling also. This is what I heard from inside my cell. The noise was deafening out here in front of it all. Pilate said, "Whom shall I release to you, this Yeshua, or shall it be Barabbas?" The response from the crowd was unexpected by me. Yeshua is a good man while I am just rabble, unfit even to tie his sandal laces. Surely they would pick Yeshua. The crowd was yelling, "Give us Barabbas and away with Yeshua! Crucify him! Crucify him!" Finally I saw Pilate give over Yeshua to be scourged. He gave orders to free me of my chains. Then he washed his hands in water to indicate he was done with the whole thing. I could hardly believe I was free. I should have been in the place Yeshua is in now. I should be punished, not Yeshua. He's taking my place. They were going to crucify him in my place. Well, I hung around in the shadows, so to speak, out of sight so I could watch what was happening. I could see Yeshua was bleeding, his back torn to shreds, and they proceeded to lay the crossbeam on his bleeding shoulders. But he was unable to carry it and stumbled and fell only after a few steps. The Roman centurion then grabbed a man from the crowd lining the street and forced him to carry the cross for Yeshua. I watched from concealment all that happened. Yeshua was nailed to that cross with blood oozing out of his body and in such pain and agony. And all the time I knew I should be the one there on that cross. He actually took my place. He was dying in my place, dying for me. I felt numb and heartsick. He was dying for me. Do you understand? He was dying for me. For me. I had to get away. I had to run. My mind could not understand. My heart was crying inside for this wonderful man who took my place to die. For weeks after, I was still in shock and numbness. I didn't go on any more raids. I couldn't do that anymore. I had to find out what happened to Yeshua after he was on the cross. I knew he would have died. No one survives a crucifixion. Finally, I found that centurion Cornelius, and we had a very long talk about life, sin, repentance, and the grace of the Lord Yeshua. He told me his death and resurrection has made a way for salvation and redemption. He led me to the Lord that day, and now I've been forgiven all of my sin and wrongdoing, also my inner rebellion toward the living God. It's so good. I don't have to run and hide now anymore. I wondered if I was hiding from the living God or running from him, but he pursued me until he caught me, and I'm so glad he did. He has given me a new life, and I'm so grateful and thankful for his sacrifice. Well now, that was so many years ago I lost count. I'm starting to get long in the tooth now and starting to feel my age. I couldn't run around now like I did when I was 30. Far from it. It's so good to see Peter, Paul, John, Matty and Cornelius, plus all the other followers of the way. Yes, there's only one way, and Yeshua is that way. Well folks, you can find that way too. Jesus is the way, the truth and the life. Seek him for yourself. Ask him to forgive you of your sin, the sin of rebellion against the Father God, brought upon every one of us when Adam disobeyed God all those millennium ago. Maybe I'll see you on that coming day when we'll all be together with Jesus in his coming kingdom. Shalom, Barabbas.
Was a wanted man. Jesus was a wanted man. The Pharisees didn't like what he did. Well, Jesus was a wanted man. He went about healing the sick. Oh yeah. He went about healing the blind. Oh yeah. They didn't like what he did. Oh no. Well, Jesus was a wanted man. Jesus was a wanted man. Well, Jesus was a wanted man. They didn't like what he did, oh no. Well, Jesus was a wanted man. He went about healing the lame. He went about raising the dead. The Pharisees didn't like what he did. Well, Jesus was a wanted man. Was a wanted man. Well, Jesus was a wanted man. They didn't like what he did, oh no. Well, Jesus was a wanted man. They hung him on the tree. He died there for you and for me. They didn't like what he did, oh